Hi, this is Vincent Wang. I would like to introduce today my new book called Clinical Engineering, Financial Management, and Benchmarking. Let me first introduce a little bit myself so you can understand where I'm coming from. I am currently a principal with a BSI, a consulting company, as well as Director of Quality and Regulatory Affairs for a medical device company called Greenwood Marketing LLC. Previously, I worked as Vice President of Quality and Regulatory Affairs for Sundon Enterprises, Aramark Healthcare Technologies, and Medic PIM. And also I worked as a visiting scientist at NIH and as adjunct professor at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. I have earned several awards as well as the status of Fellow of the American College of Clinical Engineering and the American Institute of Medical and Biological Engineering. I have been inducted into the Clinical Engineering Hall of Fame by ACCE in 2017, and I have earned a Doctor of Science degree from MIT, and I am a certified clinical engineer. Let's take a look at the key features of my book. First, the book introduces the fundamental concepts and tools needed by clinical engineering and HTM leaders to properly manage their financial resources, thus security and recognition and support from their senior leaders. The book also uses a case study based on real data to show how to prepare a budget, use different methods for financing the CE/HTM department, and find opportunities for improving financial performance. Several financial benchmarks are reviewed critically and shown how they can be used to compare performance against similar departments and thus defending themselves against consultants and outsourcing companies. This book is available from Amazon as a paperback with free spreadsheet as well as in the Kindle ebook format. So at this point, you probably would ask me, why should I worry about financial management and benchmarking? After all, I'm already doing my job well. I'm keeping equipment safe and reliable. What else do you want from me? So I'll give you a couple tests so you can understand where I'm coming from, why you really need to learn financial management. The first test is that you have two different hospitals with almost identical characteristics in terms of number of beds, geographical location, equipment inventory, staffing, etc., etc. You are spending quite different amount of money in terms of equipment maintenance and management. So my question to you is, which CE/HTM leader is a better financial manager? The first one is spending $1.76 million per year, while the other one is spending a whole lot more, $5.69 million per year. Most of you probably say, well, must be the first one spending a whole lot less money. So let's take a look at their respective budgets to see what's really going on here. As you can see, hospital A is the one spending less money, whereas hospital B is spending a whole lot more money. The first part, in terms of capital investment, their spending is exactly the same. Even in the second part, operating expenses, they are almost identical, except for this third-party services. So the first one did not include all those service contracts that they are paying to manufacturers and third parties, whereas the second one is including that. That's why there's a huge difference. But in reality, they are really spending the same amount of money. Okay, let's go to test number 2. How do you improve your budget? So your hospital comes to you and say, hey, we are in a financial crunch. We need to reduce everyone's budget by 10%. Which option is more likely to help you reach this goal here? The first option is to adopt AEM, the Alternate Equipment Management Program, so you can reduce scheduled maintenance workload and thus cut staff. The second choice is to invest in service training so you can cancel some service contracts and replace them with self-service. The third one is delay purchasing of new test equipment, postpone equipment calibration, and cancel all service training for your staff. The last one is do all of the above. So which one is the right one? So let's take a look. Again, we need to use the budget spreadsheet to do this. So let's take a look. Your goal is to reduce a little over $500,000 here. If you cut the personnel entirely, you then will be able to reach that goal. But that means everybody in your department, including yourself, will be working for free. The second choice is to reduce that amount from the third-party services. In other words, reducing service contracts. But you have to train people to do that work. That means you have to invest some money. So by doing this, you can see that it's feasible because it's only 15% reduction of the third-party services. So, and you have to invest something like $20,000, which is not a whole lot of money. So definitely it's a feasible, good idea. Finally, the last choice that was offered, the number C, was to cut all the test equipment purchase, calibration, training, etc. And you can see that it's not even close to what is necessary. So this is not enough. So this example shows why it's so important that you have your budget very carefully, accurately recorded in your hands, so you can do this kind of analysis very quickly. The traditional way of looking from different perspectives, how the CEHTM departments are managed, is that the leaders of these departments typically complain, we don't get enough attention support. The administrators will always say, come back to you and say, no, you don't generate revenue, you only add to expense, it don't help us to save money. So why should we really give you a lot of attention and support? The bottom line here is that you need to be able to communicate with numbers. Numbers here, we are talking about money. Okay. So the lesson at the end of the day is that you need to know and manage your finances. It's not just maintenance that you provide, but you are providing management. Management includes financial management. If financial management is not part of your job, there's something wrong, because otherwise engineering would be not engineering, but would be science, because you don't care about your spending, and HTM would be maintenance and not management, right? So if you don't manage well your finances, you are unable to communicate your accomplishments in an objective manner, and worse yet, you are at the risk of being replaced as the leader of the entire team by an outsourced vendor. So again, let's take a look in more detail at the contents of the book. First part is about budgeting, including startup budget and steady state budget. Then you have financing alternatives, whether you are a cost center, you are sharing costs among different departments, or you are being reimbursed per service. The third part of the book is about financial performance analysis improvement. You analyze the budget, the costs, and how you can improve from there. Finally, as said in the book title, we are going to discuss about the financial benchmarking. So let me show you some of the contents of the book. Here is a budget based on real data in a steady state. I call year 5. Here you have capital investment as well as operating expenses, and including, as we saw before, all the service contracts as well as time and material services that you have to pay for all the equipment in your hospital. And the budget is divided into direct as well as overhead, because this is important for you to understand that some of the money is spent directly on the equipment and some of that is indirectly, and that is called overhead, and it's a part of the budget that is heavily scrutinized by your superiors. So it's something that you really need to understand and need to find opportunities for improvement here. The next part is the budget analysis. Here it shows a little more clearly where the money is really going. As you can see, the majority of your budget is going into maintenance contracts. Some of that is, in addition, is going to third-party time and material expenses, replacement parts, overhead, internal labor actually is very little. And finally, the least of all is capital investment for buying new equipment or replacing existing equipment. So to improve your budget, the opportunities that you can see is that if you have these expenses currently, these are the percentages relative to your total budget, then if you do a 10% reduction of each one of these line items here, then you can reduce the budget by so much. As you can see, the biggest gain that is feasible is to reduce maintenance contract. It's very challenging, obviously, but sometimes that is the best thing that you can do, and you need to work with the user department to achieve this. Okay, let's talk a little bit about benchmarking. What's benchmarking? There's a long and detailed definition here from the American Society for Quality that I'm not going to read. You can read that for yourself. But what I want to emphasize is that this is not just simply about finances. This is about everything that you do in your organization. You measure all your products, services, process, everything against others that are leader of the industry, and then you can find basically the idea is areas, systems, or processes for improvement. And there are at least 3 types of benchmarking that is typically done for CEHTM departments: financial benchmarking, operational benchmarking, and quality benchmarking. We are going to focus on financial benchmarking here. Okay, here is a financial benchmarking challenge. For example, the total number, your total budget, total CE expense compared, for example, to the cost of capital devices that you are managing. As you can see here, we have a straight line passing by the majority of dots from different types of hospitals. These are real data collected from acute care hospitals, and there are, however, some very interesting, strange data points that I call questionable. They are significantly lower than the rest here. The majority are in the 5% line area, plus or minus quite a bit, because this is log scale. But there are others that are clearly lower by maybe even a factor of 10, if not just a factor of 5. So what's going on here? As we can see, this group of questionable budget people are really not providing accurate accounting of what this is doing. This is what we saw in our first test. There is this group of people here who only report their budget in terms of their internal costs. They don't talk about service contract. They don't include third-party time and material expenses. So their value here is very low in terms of total number, but in terms of being very close to the labor expense and the total C expense is almost the same. So in other words, they are only accounting for their labor expense plus a few maybe consumables that are generic for everyone, every piece of equipment, and not specific to a particular piece of equipment. For example, CT scanners have CT tubes that need to be placed from time to time, and they are expensive, but they are not included here. So this is the challenge that you have to be careful. So here is the group that we saw before, and they are literally here. That's why we call them questionable. So this is the kind of care you must have when you try to make benchmarking comparisons. There is a way to do good benchmarking, and this is using a multidimensional model for CE finance, where you can compare your expense. For example, in this case, we use on the horizontal axis staff beds, the number of beds that are actually in use in hospital. The gray bars here show a model, this multi-dimensional model, whereas the dots are the real data that I showed you before. Notice that the gray bars is using a model that is not built with the data points that was collected from real hospitals. These are from another group of hospitals, so we can really do a validation of the model by comparing the model results calculations against real data here. Okay. All right, in summary, it is not good enough to keep equipment safe and reliable, as you said before. This is a given. That's your job. It's also not enough to keep your clinical customers happy with your response time and turnaround time. Again, those are taken for granted. At the end of the day, likely or not, the money talks. You really need to talk to your supervisors, the administrators who are typically MBAs in terms of money, okay? And so it is essential that you know financial management for your survival and your career advancement. The ancient Chinese military strategist that you may have heard, Sun Tzu, said that know yourself and your enemy, you can win hundreds of battles. So paraphrasing that is that if you understand your finances and that of your competitors, you can defend yourself against your administrators and your competitors. Thank you for your attention. Again, I would like to emphasize that the spreadsheet is available free of charge for anyone who buys the paperback version of the book. You send me an email with the receipt from Amazon, I'll send you a copy of the spreadsheet. And you also can contact me by email if you have any questions about the contents of the book, and I'll try my best to respond to you promptly.